Amidst the calls for restructuring by some groups, the All Progressives Congress Committee on True Federalism is calling for the submission of memoranda by Nigerians. The secretary of the committee, Senator Olubunmi Adetumbi, who addressed the news conference in Abuja, explained that the committee has identified 12 key issues which appear to be causing friction among Nigerians.
The national chairman of our party, Chief John Odige Oyegun, announced the constitution of a committee on true federalism with a mandate to review the ideas variously referred to in public discourse as true federalism, restructuring, devolution of powers, regionalism, resource control, etc. and etc. and articulating and aligning the public position with the party's manifesto and campaign promises. Since our inception about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the committee has met 4 times. After the 4 deliberations of the committee, we identified 12 salient issues from the history of previous encounters of this nature. The political bureau of the Obasanjo administration, the 2014 National Conference. If you look at the output of those 2 very important recent activities of this nature, you will see a kind of similarity between what we are trying to debate.
The police in Benue State have begun the manhunt for 2 brothers identified as Ejiachi and Ejeude, who are allegedly responsible for the killing of retired Major Lawrence Ubo, a former People's Democratic Party chairman, and 3 other victims. According to the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Bashir Makama, the perpetrators of the crisis in Ondo and Ogobia communal crisis were last year charged to court over a land dispute, released on bail, only for them to renew violence in the communities. Rivalry between the brothers took a political dimension in the wake of Benue South senatorial rerun election, leading to a major disagreement between the then council chairman on the platform of the ruling APC, Mr. Ejiachi Ude, and his younger brother Eje of the PDP.
Ogobia crisis is just a group of charlatans that want to hold that community to ransom. Actually, yes, aside from the retired major that was killed, another retired ASP was also killed. The major was as a reprisal of the death of that ASP, arising from disagreements between 2 brothers, same mother, same father. That is why I call them charlatans who want to hold that community to ransom. And until the community members rise against them, they might not see peace. I have gone into this matter severally. I've called them here with over 50 members of that community to talk to them. At the end of the day, I found out that they were not ready to respond to see reason to live in peace. They were charged to court. The courts granted them bail. And again, the second one was again arrested with weapons and charged to court again. I wonder how he found his way out of the...
Here's Ibrahim Adra now with more on the news at 10 from our studio in Abuja. Hi, Ibrahim.
Good to see you, Amarachi. It's indeed a season of protest and strikes as members of the National Union of Electricity Workers are not left out. Today, they trooped to the premises of the Bureau for Public Enterprises, BPE, in Abuja to demand for the payment of severance allowances to staff who were affected by the privatization of the electricity sector in 2012. According to the protesters, they were forced to toe this path because the federal government has continued to violate payment modalities reached between the union and the management of the BPE. The Director of Electricity and Power, the BPE, assured the protesters that the federal government is working to resolve the dispute.
We have given the BPE a lot of time since 2013 to resolve all outstanding issues, and the leadership of the unions have always agreed to any arrangement on ground to see that these issues are resolved and our people stop suffering. But as it stands up to this morning when we came here, it was like we were not hearing any response from the last promises they have made. So today, our coming here is to tell them to give us our alerts, especially our comrades who since 2013 have not seen a dime of their severance.
However exalted you are as an individual, when you work either in the public or private sector, one day you will be a retiree. Including my humble self.
True or false?
True. Therefore, on behalf of the Director General of the BPE, who was personally on the ground here, by next week Friday, we will communicate clearly our position on this particular matter, which will give a roadmap, which will give a roadmap in terms of how all outstandings will be resolved by the grace of God.
Amen. Meantime, it is a huge relief for Nigerians, especially patients, as doctors in public hospitals have agreed to return to work tomorrow, 10 days after embarking on a nationwide strike. The National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, suspended the industrial action after hours of a secret meeting with the Minister of Health last night. NARD's President-elect, Dr. Chinaka Ugochukwu, announced the suspension via a text message to Channels Television's health correspondent in Abuja. The Resident Doctors Union had on Monday, September the 4th, declared an indefinite strike to protest poor welfare of members and to demand for an improved conditions of service. And now to Kaduna State, where traditional rulers there from the southern part have vowed to fully support Governor Nasir El-Rufai as he strives to address the various challenges facing the state, especially that of security. The traditional rulers, who paid a courtesy visit to the governor at the government house in Kaduna, commended him particularly for giving the order for the reopening of tertiary institutions in the area following the return of relative peace.
For many months, southern Kaduna was under siege following constant attacks on the people by suspected herdsmen. Several lives, houses and even farmlands were destroyed while socio-economic activities were paralyzed within that period. Thankfully, the security situation in the area has improved and traditional rulers are here to show their appreciation. The paramount ruler of Kagoma Chiefdom, Chief Paul Zaka, speaks for the group and describes the governor's efforts in bringing succor to the crisis-ridden part of the state as a mastery of turning defeat to victory.
Pride, all humility and assurance that the traditional rulers who are here before you today are proud that you have granted the request for us to come and say thank you.
Governor El-Rufai and his deputy who received the delegation say their administration has no hidden agenda in terms of project allocation or appointments.
Some people thought, for example, or expressed their own personal opinion, maybe politically motivated, maybe for some reasons, maybe that was their own understanding. My answer to those that I had the opportunity of talking to is that a government that has invested in 2 years a little bit over 6 billion and is still counting and is still going into further development in the educational sector alone cannot be against the development of education in the area.
Peace and security of lives and property of citizens is the primary responsibility of any government. As these traditional rulers return to their domains, they are hoping that successes achieved so far in southern Kaduna will be sustained.
Let's return to Amarachi in our Lagos studios for more on the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Ibrahim. And Abuja High Court has dismissed a suit filed by Mr. Raymond Dokpesi seeking to remove the national leaders of the Advanced People's Democratic Alliance, APDA. Mr. Dokpesi had on August 17, 2017, approached the court with claims that he founded the party and appointed its national chairman, Shitu Mohammed, and secretary, Emeka Okengwu. Delivering judgment on the suit, the presiding judge, Justice Yusuf Halilu, affirmed that the defendants were elected in January with a resolution submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The judge further noted that INEC had equally cautioned Mr. Dokpesi in a letter addressed to him that the party cannot have a board of trustees until after 5 years, as stipulated by APDA's constitution. Based on the submission of the defendants, the court held that Mr. Shitu and Okengwu remain the national chairman and secretary and authentic and recognized leaders of APDA because Mr. Dokpesi's action lacked integrity and no local standard to approach the court in the first instance. Mr. Dokpesi asked the court to affirm him as chairman of APDA's Board of Trustees and to sack the Shitu-led National Working Committee and National Executive Committee of the party. For years now, agitations of workers in the health sector have caused interruptions in the care chain in hospitals and the untold suffering for hundreds, possibly thousands of patients and their relatives. At a time when resident doctors are just coming off a 10-day strike, other medical staff are threatening strike if their demands, which are similar, are not met. Our big story focuses on what health professionals see as the looming danger in the sector.
The primary healthcare facility in Ogudu, Koshofe local government area of Lagos, one of the few where our cameras were allowed in, is packed with outpatients. Authorities here consider it a model facility in the state. Here, a woman can have a baby free of charge with decent facilities.
No time at all. So they are wonderful here. The environment very neat. How they take care of your children, their attendance is wonderful.
Ranging from infant care, antenatal, deliveries, and general care.
The same is true of the Federal Medical Center in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. Patients attending primary healthcare centers in Osun State are not as fortunate. But when health professionals complain of a lack of facilities, perhaps the statement of this anesthetist at the Ladoke Akintola University of Technology Teaching Hospital, Osogbo, Osun State, captures their sentiment.
As little as a nebulizer can give issue to a problem, just small as nebulizer is. So we have issue with that. You imagine that I want to do X-ray for a patient in ICU. I have to see a way of transferring that patient. There's no mobile X-ray. I have critically ill patient that merely moving them can cause them a lot of things.
Though cameras were not allowed extensive shooting in hospitals at Owerri in Imo State and Benin in Edo State, doctors there put their finger on a major source of worry: funding.
Health is giving less than 5% of the budget. Places where healthcare works perfectly, they have very good insurance scheme. People contribute, and from the pool of the money they used to run health insurance scheme.
Medical facilities at the General Hospital in Katsina State look good, from the appearance of the building to the sparkling chairs in the outpatient department. However, the same cannot be said about the Federal Medical Center, where even though the wards seem well appointed, the building and facilities are beginning to show signs of wear and tear. For Dr. Olajide Olatubosun, if care is not taken, Nigerian doctors would not be able to practice at the level of their counterparts in other countries.
The funds needed for the training are not there. What we need to learn as resident doctors are not forthcoming.
Problems of inadequate equipment, inadequate funding, underpaid personnel and others have combined to give rise to a very undesirable trend, which threatens the sector's viability.
Here we're talking about salary arrears. We're talking about somebody going on strike so that he can be sure that every month he's going to get paid. So people are tired of doing that, and people are now saying, at a younger age, once you finish your medical school, why not just leave the country? We have an exodus. Recently, the people from Saudi Arabia came around, and within the month of September, you have about 150 doctors leaving the country. Consultants.
Players in the sector say that apart from attending to equipment, paying salaries and arrears, and providing adequate training, universal applicability, where a health worker is assured of a similar welfare package, no matter what cadre the hospital, and irrespective of the setting, would go a long way to stabilizing the health sector. For The Big Story, Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.